Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with an Ezreal supplementary guide, and today we're going to be talking about Riftmaker on Ezreal. So now I noticed that within like the top 10 Ezreals, I think there's like about 4 Ezreals who are building Riftmaker at the moment. I thought it was a really interesting idea. So I tested it out for myself for a couple of matches. The gameplay you'll be seeing is I think like the 6th or 7th match that I tested this build in Ezreal, and I got to say that I really do like it. Now I'm not making this an updated complete guide because I don't necessarily think Riftmaker is gonna be a go-to every single match. For me it probably is, but as a general build probably not. But anyways, we're just gonna go through what the build is and how we go with this build. So obviously the first item we're gonna get is gonna be the Manamune. Obviously Manamune gives you the on-hit damage on your Q and gives you a lot of mana. And then you're gonna get your Sheen item, which generally is gonna be Triforce. Of course, for more on hit with the Spellblade and all the ability haste, stats, etc. Not too much interesting to explain here, just simply because of how I pretty much say the same thing every time. But the part I really want to explain is the Riftmaker. Anyways, just a side note is that on your starting item, you generally want to get Longsword, but if you're in a lane that you want to play passive and you're not interested in fighting at all, you can start with the Sapphire Crystal. On your first bat, if possible, try to get the Tear and try to get the Sheen. You want to get Sheen as early as possible because Sheen ups your early game damage by a lot and actually allows you to deal viable damage. Without the Sheen, you're going to be doing next to no damage at all. So you want to get the Sheen as early as possible. Now I used to have it such that if I could complete Manamune, I would complete Manamune and I wouldn't get Sheen. But nowadays I will get Sheen and not complete Manamune because at the end of the day it's way more important to get the Sheen early for that early game damage than it is to complete the Manamune and charge it up faster, because Ezreal charges up Manamune really quickly anyways. Okay, so for the next item you generally go for your boot enchant. Now on Ezreal, honestly, defensive boots may not always be the case. You can go for the defensive boots, but other boots that are really good is the Ionian Boots of Lucidity. I don't go Boots of Fury or Gluttonous Greaves on Ezreal because Ezreal already has multiple forms of healing. He doesn't need that movement speed because he has that Arcane Shift to blink away anyway. So generally, if you don't need defensive boots, the Ionian Boots of Lucidity is the best one to go for. But since you already get a lot of ability haste from items like Manamune and Triforce, and in fact I believe this one, yeah, Riftmaker also gives ability haste. I think that's more than enough, so I generally go for the defensive boots. Into the stasis, Ezreal pretty much goes stasis all of the time. And now we're gonna get into the meat of the video, which is the Riftmaker. So Riftmaker of course gives you a little bit of health to make you just a little bit more tanky, gives you 80 ability power, and Ezreal's skills and abilities do scale with ability power as well. And if you guys didn't know, when you pop his ring on his W, it's AP, his ult does AP damage, and his E also does partial AP damage. So Ezreal actually has a lot of AP scaling as well as AP damage itself. So this kind of does make sense. So of course you also get the ability haste, the Omnivamp. So Omnivamp, really useful of course because once again, Ezreal does both types of damage, although he does mainly physical damage because his Q is his main form of damage. So the Omnivamp is going to help you heal up with both your Q as well as all of your other magic damage sources. And lastly, we have the Void Corruption. So basically, when you're in combat for 3 seconds, you're going to get an extra 9% true damage, which is, of course, the kind of the main purpose of really getting the Riftmaker, is that extra 9% true damage. Now, of course, true damage cannot be affected by defenses, which is why it's called true damage in the first place. So this is going to help against tanky teams in particular. And yeah, the Omnivamp plus the true damage is just really amazing for Ezreal. And then you of course go for the Seralda's Grudge, again more AD, more ability haste, and the armor penetration. But the main reason for this is the IC passive to slow down people you hit with your Q. Of course now we got Lord Dominic's Regard, but of course Ezreal doesn't actually build crit, so that's not really a viable option at all. And finally we have the Blade of the Rune King for more physical vamp, just attack speed, and the attack damage. Of course, we also have the drain passive, etc. Basically, it's just the best last item choice for Ezreal. And a small thing to note is that the items can actually be swapped around, so you can go for Riftmaker later and like Sorela's Grudge earlier, or can go for like Blade of the Rune King earlier if you so choose. It's kind of a little bit about personal preference as well as the state of the match, but this is the general build. Of course, for your Sheen item, you can also take something like Divine Sunder or Iceborne Gauntlet. As a matter of fact, in the match you will see later, I did take Divine Sunder. More about that in the actual match itself. So for the runes, I generally go Conqueror all of the time. Kraken Slayer is viable as well, but personally I feel that Conqueror is just better because Kraken Slayer is more early game focused, and really I feel that it does make your laning phase better, but I'd rather have a better late game with the Conqueror. Kraken Slayer isn't too bad in the late game as well, but I just feel that Conqueror is just better on Ezreal. It's really easy for him to stack up the Conqueror because generally most fights you are in last pretty long simply because you're just poking people out before the main fight happens, and your Conqueror will be stacked, your Riftmaker will be stacked, and it just all works out. Okay, so for the Domination rune, if the enemy team has 2 to 3 tanky targets at least, and by tanky I mean they build health, they don't necessarily have to be a tank for that to happen. For example, Diana builds Rod of Ages. She's not a tank, but Giant Slayer is going to work against her. So basically, if there are like 3 health building champions on the enemy team, I'm going to be taking Giant Slayer because that's going to increase my damage by a lot. Now if that is not the case, then I will generally just go for Hunter Vampirism is the rune I would like to take. Now of course other runes like Triumph or what are viable as well. You guys can see Champion is still here, but that's because I'm recording this video a couple of hours before patch 3.5 releases, where Ezreal is going to get a buff, so he's only going to get better from here on out. And now we have Nullifying Orb as my general go-to option for the second rune. You also can take Bone Plating if you so choose. And finally, for the last item option, I like taking Nimbus Cloak. Now, we don't need Mana Flow Band for the mana. We don't need Hunter Genius because we got more than enough ability haste. So the best option here is Nimbus Cloak, so that when you use your summoner spells, you can get an extra burst of movement speed, and that can come in real handy to chase people down or to run away. Alright, so lastly, we have the spells, which is of course going to be Exhausting Flash. Don't think I gotta really explain that one. And with all that out of the way, we can move straight on to the gameplay. Okay, so the first thing I want to cover for the gameplay is look at the enemy team. Look at how tanky in general the enemy team is. We have a Vi, who of course is a bruiser slash fighter. We have Galio, who is tanky. Tristana isn't of course tanky, but we have Darius, again another fighter, and we also have Kassadin. Now Kassadin isn't exactly tanky, but he builds a lot of max health because he generally will build a Rod of Ages, and he generally will build this, what's that item called? The Seraph's Embrace. So both of those actually give him health. So basically our Giant Slayer is going to be working on Kassadin, is going to be working on Darius, going to be working on Galio as well as Vi. So we have huge Giant Slayer value this match. So obviously we have the Giant Slayer in this match. And in this match, instead of going for Triforce, I've actually even opted to go for the Divine Sunder instead, just because of how there's 4 champions that are building a lot of health, and Divine Sunder gives you 7% max HP damage because I'm a ranged champion, not melee. I think that it's really good in this particular match, so I did go for Divine Sunder instead of Triforce in this match. So that's just something to take note of. So I went for, of course, Mana Immune into Sunder and then into the Riftmaker, which is of course what this video is all about. And we're going to be discussing the gameplay and just about playing Ezreal in general. I think Ezreal is one of the strongest ADCs to play at the moment. He's been pretty underrated for quite a while, but slowly people are starting to realize how good he really is. Now of course, personally, the reason why I don't like playing Ezreal is his lackluster wave clear. Like, it really sucks when, like, even when you're really fat, the whole enemy team is pushing in and you can't clear the wave and they just end the game, or they just take inhibs. Whereas on majority of other ADCs, you do have some kind of AoE to clear the waves with, like Caitlyn Q, Lucian Q, Kai'Sa Q, or whatever it may be. But Ezreal just sucks at clearing the wave, and even when you commit your ult to clear a wave, it still never really works out. So that's the main reason why I feel pretty annoyed when I play Ezreal. But I have to admit that Ezreal is really good. It's just not one of my favorite champions to play. Alright, so anyways, You will see that in this particular game, we have a pretty rough early game, but Ezreal, again, kind of spikes on 3 to 4 items. In fact, he spikes on 2 items already. Like when you get the Sheen item plus the Mana Mune, or rather the Mirror Mana, you spike, and then you get the 3rd item, be it your Seraldas or your Riftmaker, is another spike, and every item after that is a spike. Probably your biggest spikes are on items 3 and 4. When you get your last item is not too huge of a spike anymore, but pretty much you are not really the best early game, especially in this particular lane. If you take a look, I'm with a Nami, I'm against a Galio and a Tristana. Tristana has a ton of all-in potential at level 2, level 3, and level 5. She did not all-in me at level 2 and 3 so far, but we still have that level 5 all-in. And Galio has a lot of lockdown as well, a ton of CC with his taunt and with his Justice Punch. So we have to be really cautious, because if we get chain CC'd by Galio and we got the bomb on us, Tristana can blast us into next week. So we gotta be really careful about that. Now the only real good news is that Tristana has really low range at the start, so much so that I'm pretty much allowed to poke her down. As you guys can see, my health is still pretty competitive with her because I have been poking her pretty consistently, and as a result, it kind of will dissuade her from going for all-ins, because with a lower health bar, going all-in is a lot more risky. So I am of course just trying to just poke her out to prevent her from going in on us. Alright. So here, again, for the first like 5 minutes of the game, like the entire laning phase before Dragon starts, it really nothing too much happens. All that's doing is I'm trying to CS, Tristana's trying to CS, I'm trying to poke her down, and she is trying to find opportunities to all-in me, which she can't really do so because of how much I'm poking her. Look at my health now. It's almost full, and she's at about like 1/3 health, maybe about half health. So she doesn't really have the health to all-in me because of how much we've been poking, which is how you play these kind of lanes. Like if you're against a kill lane, what you want to do is hang back and just poke them down. This also works on someone like a Draven, for example, but Draven has a lot more threat because you can poke him like 3 times and he walks up, autos you 1 time, does the same amount of damage, but it still kind of works. Okay, so now here you guys can see the dragon spawning in 30 seconds. Now none of us have actually managed to back and recall to get any sort of items yet. So here, normally you want to clear out the wave before you back, but I actually make the decision to just take the cannon and just recall straight away, because Tristana and Galio obviously have recalled. Dragon is spawning in 20 seconds, and you do need 20 seconds to recall, get items, and get back to the dragon. So I decided to just recall straight away, and then so that I could make it to the dragon on time. Now, even though I've done that, you guys can see that when the dragon has spawned, I'm still about only halfway there. Probably because I wasted a little bit of time just shooting a couple of Qs to charge up my tier. But anyways, thankfully, the dragon is not started up by the enemy team, nor has it been started by my team. Here you can see a prime example of Yasuo backing when the dragon has already spawned. So he's not going to be with us for the dragon fight, which is horrible. So you want to, of course, back before dragon spawns and not when dragon spawns, because your team needs you for the fight. Alright, so here, we're just doing Ezreal things, which is poking people down. The Vi decides to go all in onto Nami. Tristana goes in as well. I exhaust the Tristana so that the bomb won't do too much damage to the Nami. And I ult her with the ring around, and I thought that she would die, but she actually didn't. Q over the wall actually hits her, but again she's left on 1 HP. She tries to mock me by emoting there, but I hit my Q and she does actually die. But unfortunately, we're a little bit deep in. Nami hits a really nice 2-man bubble and heals me to give me the movement speed to escape Galio's taunt. Unfortunately, Darius turns up and I do die, but honestly, I was intending to trade 1-for-1 there with the Tristana, because I honestly felt that it's really easy to secure the kill onto the Tristana, which thankfully I did, and I would be in way too deep, but somehow, some way, with the help of Nami, I literally almost escaped right there, but unfortunately almost doesn't quite count, so I still end up dying in the end, but definitely made the enemies work for it. Alright, so here, we're coming up on a pretty embarrassing play right about now. So here, as usual, the teams are doing the Rift Herald dance, whereas the 2 ADCs are in lane in a 1v1. So here all I'm doing is really just pushing the lane and just taking the CS. Tristana goes in, pops the bomb on me, and just instantly bursts me down, just like that. So I was not expecting to get 100 to 0'd by Tristana. I did know Tristana's ult-in is dangerous, but I really didn't respect it, which was of course my mistake. and because of that I do die. Now my exhaust of course was not up, if not this wouldn't really be an issue, but because I didn't have exhaust I get instantly destroyed by Tristana, so not looking too good for me. As I mentioned, early game's pretty rough. I'm 1, 2, and 3 at the moment. The only good news is that my goal is still pretty competitive with the rest of the map, but KD not looking too good. So here Tristana's trying to secure the tower. I'm here to defend it, barely keeping the tower alive. Although our mid tower does fall, enemies do take the first tower of the game, as well as getting the mid lane tower, which is a huge get for their team. So yet again, Ezreal really isn't very strong in the early game. All you want to do is kind of farm up and get to like 2 to 3 items before you actually can do anything. So here I do have my Sheen already before the dragon, and I do have the mana mune completed now. So I'm still trying to charge it up to Mirror Mana. I'm still trying to get my Sheen upgraded to a Sheen item, which in this case is going to be the Divine Sunderer. So when I hit Divine Sunderer is roughly when my Mirror Mana should come through, and that's when I can start to do some work, put some work in. Alright, so here Tristana goes in for the jump. Nami shows up right at the correct moment. Nami hits a beautiful bubble, there we go, allowing me to Q ult to finish off the kill onto the Tristana. So here, really nice play by the Nami. As I mentioned in my last video on Nautilus, sometimes it really is all about the support. I really can't do anything to Tristana. I need my Nami to hit the CC so that I can land my Q and ult for free and just get that easy kill. Alright, so now we're just trying to clear the wave before we back. So I'm just trying to blast down the minions before I back, and I'm gonna do so right here. So here you guys can see we're gonna both recall, but the Kassadin decides he wants to try to, disturb us. So here we're gonna go 2v1 onto Kassadin. I have the exhaust up, exhausting the Kassadin. Conqueror fully stacked. And here I actually did have flash, but I didn't want to kind of waste it on Kassadin. Now I did hit the W auto, but somehow Kassadin actually lives on 1 HP, which is extremely unlucky. And Tristana actually comes in, cleans up the kill onto me, and then forces Nami to run away, and does get the tower as well. So that was a really unfortunate chain of events. Again, a really rough early game, and just really unlucky that we didn't get the kill onto the Kassadin, who is 2-0-4 by the way. So it's gonna be pretty huge if we can get a kill onto him, get him off the map, and stop him from scaling. He does have the 2 items that I mentioned already, which is the Rod of Ages and the Seraph's Embrace, which ironically means we deal more damage to him because he has more health, and that means we're gonna be doing more damage because of the Giant Slayer rune. So here you can see I'm just going all around the map, collecting as much minions as I can, and just trying to get to my items, like really. So here the next dragon is, the next dragon is coming up in 30 seconds. I launch my ult to try to help my team, who is in a fight at the topside river. And here I recall, get my Divine Sunder, and I also have my Mirror Mana upgraded. So here, with my 2 item power spike, I should be doing decent amounts of damage at this point. So I'm ready to rock and roll, ready to fight. And here my team is kind of in a scuffle with the enemy team. Not too much really happens here. Health bars are all still high. I managed to hit Kassadin with my Q, jumping in. The enemy team sort of gets caught, and it's sort of a huge fight just breaks out. So here I'm just blasting whoever I can. I blast down the Vi, I exhaust Darius, and I'm gonna just blink back, getting the kill. And nice bubble again by the Nami, and I somehow managed to get a quadra kill in that whole scuffle. I'm not even sure who was the last guy I didn't kill. I wasn't even sure what was really happening there. I literally was just kiting back and blasting whoever I could, and I ended up getting 4 kills. So this is really the turning point of the game, where I come online. Firstly, of course, because I got my 2 item power spike, and now with the quadra kill, I got a huge amount of gold. If you take a look, I have 8.7k gold, and the next closest person to me is Garen and Kassadin with about 8k gold. So I have huge injection of gold here. We're gonna try to secure this dragon. Kassadin tries to come in for a steal, eats a wave and a Yasuo ult for his trouble, and has to pop the stasis. Now again, this is another great fight by me from Ezreal. So here I'm just gonna stay away from the enemy team. I'm just gonna blast literally whoever I can. I see an opportunity, I blink in for the Tristana, then onto the actually that was not the Tristana. I think that was, I'm not sure who that was, but I was actually going for the Tristana. I hit somebody else instead. Whoever that was is dead. Obviously, then I can go on to the Tristana, and now only the Kassadin is left alive, so we can really easily take this mid lane tower. Kassadin shouldn't be able to stop us by himself, so easy pick up from me and my team. And now we can finally base to spend the gold that we have. So here I actually had enough gold to straight up just buy the Riftmaker, but I chose to instead go for the boot and the boot enchant. Because I do want to stay safe with that stasis, and then I'm going to get the components toward my Riftmaker. So the stasis is really useful in this match. It can help me against Tristana's bomb, Vi's ultimate, Galio's like ultimate and CC in general, and Darius' ultimate and Kassadin's damage in general. So stasis is really huge in this match. And I also don't want to give away my shutdown to the enemy team, so I do want to stay as safe as possible. I have a pretty huge bounty because I went from like 2 and 3 to like 8 and 3, so I have a pretty huge bounty on me at the moment. So I really don't want to die, so I do want to prioritize that stasis over getting the Riftmaker. But the last two fights, you guys can see how strong Ezreal really is. That's pretty much all you want to do. You want to just stay away, kite back, and just blast whoever you can, whoever's directly in front of you. And when you see an opportunity, you go in for a low HP target. And at this point in time though, it's slightly different now, because now I don't have to necessarily play so safe anymore, because I'm really fed. I have a lot of damage, so sometimes I can actually just jump in. Here I actually hit a 3 to 4 man ultimate here, and again, so here I'm just gonna see whoever I can hit. I'm just gonna hit whoever I can. Vi comes in the flank on the side and goes for me, ults me, and here I'm gonna hit the stasis so that I don't get hit by Galio's ultimate. Then I'm gonna just kite away again and blast whoever I can. Tristana tries to go in on me. I have my exhaust up, so she gets exhausted. She tries to blast me away. Doesn't really do too much damage because she is exhausted, and the whole enemy team again gets wiped out with the exception of the Kassadin. Now Kassadin, of course, he's playing pretty well. He's 2-1 and 7, and he has been avoiding deaths for the most part. And here we're going for the Baron itself. And it should be a pretty free Baron take with all 5 members alive and only enemy Kassadin alive. For some reason, Kassadin decides to actually just straight up jump in, apparently trying to steal the Baron, but he pops the stasis, he wastes his splash, and he still dies anyway. Here I'm going to quickly just use the Baron recall to get back to base and pick up the Riftmaker. So again, 3 item power spike is going to be huge for Ezreal, so we should be doing a whole bucket load of damage, especially since we are really fed as well compared to the rest of the map. So with the Baron buff, we want to get some pushing done now. Somehow tier 1 tower in bot is still up, so of course that's the most obvious target. Here we spot Vi trying to take the skull. No way, so we're going to take the skull instead. And here we're going to use the Baron buff to start pushing down. Now we have a 2-man push on the bot lane and a 2-man push in the mid lane. Sion for some reason is farming the jungle. This is what you don't want to do when you have Baron buff. You don't want to be wasting time farming the jungle. You want to be using that Baron buff to push in. Now a fight starts breaking out in the mid lane. I'm going to ult over to get my ult onto, I believe it hit 3 people there as well. And then I'm waiting for an opportunity to jump in. Here I jump in and actually block Galio's Justice Punch so he can't actually escape. Now that wasn't intentional, I'm not going to lie, but it still works out because we do get the kill onto the Galio. So now only the 2 enemy carries are left alive, and they really cannot defend against 5 people trying to siege their inhibitor. So what we're going to do is we're just simply going to take their inhibitor pretty much uncontested. And the plan here is either to force the end. Now a possibility is you could force the end. The enemies are still 15 seconds away from spawning, and 2 carries may not be able to stop us from ending. Or option number 2, push the other lane, which is over here. Or option number 3, back and prepare for dragon. So we decide to, instead of trying to force the end, back off, push in the lane, and then recall. So now before Baron runs out, it's going to run out in a couple of seconds. I'm going to quickly channel the Baron recall to get back home. And the Baron actually runs out as I'm in the recall. Nami didn't get the Baron recall, so she has to do the entire manual full recall. Now because of that, I am actually able to get to the dragon pretty much on spawn, but Nami isn't. She's pretty much just walking out of base, and the enemy team is already on the dragon, which is a little bit of a minor issue. So here, I'm just trying to poke, but Dragon's big body is blocking me, so I'm not really landing poke on the correct people. So here, Vi actually manages to secure the dragon, I'm gonna Arcane Shift out of the way of Darius's ultimate. Vi again comes for me, but Vi alone cannot really do too much to me, as you guys can see. She really doesn't do enough damage to kind of do anything to me, so she really needs her team to follow up. In the past 2 fights, she pretty much went in by herself without her team, and because of that, the enemy team again is all wiped out, and again only Kassadin is left alive. However, Kassadin is being kept busy by Sion and Garen. Garen unfortunately dies. Sion is still on the chase for the Kassadin. In the meantime, me and Yasuo can end the game and pick up our free mark. Not free, but we can pick up our mark from ranked. Anyways, as usual, I'm going to leave you guys with the stats. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.